Welcome back to Stories of Soul, a place where ordinary moments turn into life-changing journeys, where pain, hope, and unexpected love quietly meet. If you enjoy heartfelt stories that stay with you long after the video ends, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Now, settle in, because this story begins with a small voice, a tired father, and a sentence that would change everything. The rain had been falling since early morning, the kind that soaked through shoes and patience alike. Daniel Carter stood just inside the glass doors of the Meridian Tower lobby, holding his daughter Lily's small hand. His jacket was thin, worn at the elbows, and far too light for the cold. Lily's pink sneakers were damp, her curls sticking to her forehead. She looked up at him with eyes far older than her 5 years should allow. Daniel had not planned to be here. Meridian Tower was the tallest building in the city, home to one of the most powerful corporations in the world. He had come only because the small daycare Lily attended had suddenly shut down, and he'd been forced to bring her along while he dropped off resumes. Someone had told him there was a cafe on the ground floor where he could warm her up for a bit. But as soon as they stepped inside, the difference between their world and this one became painfully clear. Polished marble floors reflected chandeliers that looked like constellations. Men and women in tailored suits walked past them, voices low, footsteps confident. Lily squeezed his hand tighter. Daniel knelt beside her. "Just a minute, sweetheart. We'll get you something warm." She nodded, but her gaze drifted to a security guard watching them too closely. She leaned closer and whispered, her voice soft but steady. "It's okay, Daddy. We can leave." The words hit Daniel harder than any rejection letter ever had. He forced a smile. "No, Lil, we're fine." But before he could move, a voice echoed across the lobby. Calm, commanding. "Is there a problem here?" Daniel turned to see a tall man approaching, dressed simply in a dark coat, his presence somehow silencing the room. His eyes were sharp, observant, yet not unkind. This was Alexander Reed, Billionaire CEO, the man whose face appeared on magazine covers, whose decisions shifted markets overnight. The security guard straightened immediately. "No problem, sir. Just..." Alexander raised a hand. His gaze had already settled on Lily. She was staring back, curious rather than intimidated. Alexander crouched down to her level. "Are you cold?" he asked gently. Lily nodded once. Alexander stood and looked at Daniel. "There's a cafe inside. You're welcome to stay." Daniel swallowed his pride. "Thank you. We won't be long." What was meant to be a brief stop turned into something else entirely. Over hot chocolate and a plain croissant Daniel insisted on paying for, Lily chatted freely with the stranger. She talked about her drawings, about how her mom used to sing before bedtime, about how Daddy tried his best even when he was tired. Alexander listened, really listened. Something in the child's honesty chipped away at walls he'd spent decades building. Daniel learned later that Alexander had been raised in foster care, moving from home to home, never staying long enough to feel safe. He had built his empire on control, on certainty. But this little girl, with her damp shoes and brave smile, reminded him of something he had lost. They parted ways that day with nothing more than a polite handshake. Daniel assumed that was the end of it. It wasn't. 2 days later, Daniel received a call. An interview. A real one. Not a mass email rejection. Not a polite apology. The position was within Reed Global. The same building. The same lobby. On his first day, Daniel wore the only suit he owned. Lily waited at school, unaware that her father's life was quietly turning a corner. Daniel worked hard, harder than he ever had. He stayed late, learned quickly, and never complained. Alexander noticed. Sometimes their paths crossed. A nod in the hallway. A brief exchange in the elevator. And once, on a late evening, Alexander saw Lily again, sitting at a desk coloring while Daniel finished a report. "You're back," Lily said, smiling. Alexander smiled too. Weeks turned into months. Daniel was promoted. Lily was enrolled in a better school. Their apartment grew warmer, brighter. Not because of money alone, but because hope had returned. One night, during a company charity event, Lily stood beside Daniel in a borrowed dress, looking overwhelmed. The crowd was loud, elegant, intimidating. She tugged at her father's sleeve and whispered the same words she had spoken months before. "It's okay, Daddy. We can leave." Daniel knelt down, heart full this time. "No, sweetheart. We belong here." Alexander, watching from across the room, understood then that some encounters are not accidents. They are beginnings. Over time, Alexander became a presence in their lives. Not as a savior, not as a hero, but as someone learning how to belong. He attended Lily's school play. He taught her how to play chess. He listened when Daniel spoke about grief, about loving someone you lose too soon. And in return, Daniel and Lily gave Alexander something no amount of wealth ever could. Family. Warmth. A reason to come home. Years later, when Lily stood on a stage receiving an award for her art, she spotted two men in the audience. One who gave her life. And one who helped them restart it. She smiled, remembering a rainy day, a cold lobby, and the moment she learned that it was okay to hope. Because sometimes, a single sentence whispered by a child can change the course of 3 lives forever. Thank you for watching Stories of Soul. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs a reminder that even the smallest moments can lead to the greatest new beginnings.